Welcome back to Show Me Them Nuggets. This is Eduardo Trinidad, producer of the show. We've got a very special episode for you. Joe's business partner, Rob Warner, the founder of Invisible PPC, sits down with Abhi Kumar, founder of Kuware, and Invisible PPC's brand new owner, to talk about his entrepreneurial journey and ultimately what the future holds for him and Invisible PPC. We recorded this for Abhi's podcast and wanted to share it with you as well. Here we go.
Okay, so Rob, thanks for coming by in Austin.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I really do appreciate that. And since we're here, we might as well record this session, right?
100%.
Yes. So the part I want to start, which I know you don't care that much about, we just talked at lunch, but I don't know you kind of shared you have accounting background.
Yeah.
So I want to start from there. Tell me your story before, because we can edit, we can make two parts.
That's fine.
Of it.
So let me give you the story. So I knew early on I wanted to own my own business. I had a long belief, arrogant potentially as a small child, that I was relatively smart, did well at school, I felt like I knew stuff, and I refused to work for all my life for somebody else while they get fat and rich and I stay as an employee. Don't want to do that. I want my own business. And my dad was working as a sales exec for a multinational company, got promoted to managing director to CEO, and struggled with the numbers. And he said, Rob, if you want to own your own business, make sure you know your numbers. The best thing you can do is get an accounting experience. It will set you up for everything else you do afterwards. And being the good, obedient son, I went and I got a job with a big four accounting firm, passed my accounting qualifications, learned how to be an accountant.
Which firm was it?
KPMG.
Okay.
So I worked with KPMG.
Yeah.
I stayed there just about long enough to get the ink dry on the certificate, and then went out into industry and worked as a CFO for a bunch of companies. And the place I liked best was always working in small to mid-sized companies. I didn't want to be that kind of faceless person in booth number 43 in a big company. That was just not for me. So I wanted the companies I was working with doing like 5 to 20 million a year, that kind of range. So did that for a few years, and the problem is it traps you into a lifestyle that they pay you really well. They give you nice cars and nice bonuses, and it gets very comfortable.
Yeah.
And you have a family, and they like this lifestyle. So my wife and I had this conversation that actually the thing I wanted to do, I'm going to go and do it. And I'm going to go into software. I've got these business ideas. I want to build a software company. And so my wife, to her incredible credit, said, do you know what? If that's really what you want to do, I trust you. Just don't lose the house. That was the instruction. Don't lose the house, but go and do it. So I set up a software company. And we actually started to do okay. We were doing really not bad. It was around 2010, so when just after the banking crash, the world got a bit funky.
Yeah.
And so we built software for business. Immediately had to pivot it to government, because government suddenly were the only people spending money. Because all the businesses we were selling to were like, no, we've got nothing, we're just broke for the next period. Sold the software to businesses, to government, and we were doing good. By my standards, we'd sold about $250,000 in orders from a startup, basically. Mm-hmm. Excellent. And then this thing that the word in the UK at the time was austerity. It was post-banking crash, when governments realised they'd spent all this money bailing out the banks and they had to tighten their budgets. And I went away on vacation one day. Shortly after our general election in the UK, a new Prime Minister had just been elected. Day one, I got this email from one of my customers going, your order's cancelled. Day two, got another one. By the end of the holiday, I had lost every single order in my backlog. And the government departments all said, sorry, not only are we cancelling the order, we are legally not allowed to buy anything for you for the foreseeable future. Like, oh crap, I now have a serious problem.
Uh-huh.
So, we figured, what can we do? How do we save ourselves? We spent all our money.
Uh-huh.
So we made a commercial version of the software. We started commercial, gone to government. We flipped it and made a commercial version. In fact, I threw a hissy fit. I went to see one of my last prospects standing. He said, I like what you've built, but it's too complicated for me. I just want a simple thing. And I called my developer on the car on the way back, so I'd driven 4 hours to this meeting. I went, I don't care what it takes, but by the end of this week, I need a simple version that just does this. And we built it in a week. We ran some Google ads, because I hated selling. I absolutely hated selling. And it worked. And we got some Google ads, and we got some revenue in. And I'm like, yay! And it was just about enough to keep us afloat. And so, over the next period, the company was hanging on by its fingernails at this point. And we'd picked up 2 or 3 Google Ads clients now, by accident, just by word of mouth. And I had to say to my wife one day, you know that thing you said not to do about the house? I'm about 6 weeks away from doing it. So enjoy it while you can, because it ain't going to last very much longer. And the strange thing happened that just that conversation, that level of honesty and opening up about just how bad things had got, allowed me to go lean fully into Google Ads. And I started picking up clients. And I picked up 1, I picked up 2. And the lucky thing that happened, so 2 things happened. Number 1, I learned advice from my dad was terrible. Absolutely useless advice. I knew at any one point in time precisely how much I didn't have in terms of money. I could accurately tell you how much I owed, but I had no revenue, and I had no sales skills, so I had no means of getting new revenue in. And the advice should have been, go and sell some stuff, and then you can count your money afterwards. But I didn't know how to do it. So I was a sales shy, introverted accountant. Client number 3 who found me, because I was too frightened to do anything you call outreach or cold call, God forbid cold calling. I would have almost preferred to lose the house and do a cold call. He said, look, I work for a digital marketing agency. We do lots of SEO and website builds, but we don't do Google Ads. We've got lots of clients who want Google Ads. Why don't you come down to our office, you can go through their accounts and review what they're doing, good and bad. I'll do the selling, you do the service delivery, and we'll split the money 50-50. That's the business model for me. Somebody else does the selling, I do the technical bit that I like doing, and we make some money. And 1 agency led to 2 agencies, led to 3, and before I knew it, I'd got this business doing white label Google Ads. I didn't even know there was such a thing as white label. I knew I was just splitting the money with this guy. And then somebody said, oh, you're doing white label. I went, am I? Excellent, I'll do more of that then. Yeah. And that's where we got started. I often describe myself as an accidental agency owner. And that's what it was. So that was our kind of origin story of what became Invisible PPC, was kind of a happy accident.
So what year was it when you kind of had 3 or 4 clients already and you're officially this new agency? That
was kind of about 2011 going into 2012 by now.
Okay.
And so here's what happened next. It were kind of 2 or 3 events that turned things. Event number 1 was I knew I couldn't sell. I knew I didn't like selling. So I was trying to figure out ways to get people to come to me. And so I would buy, on places like the Warrior Forum and other online things, buying training programs on how to be better at selling or better at marketing. And as was the trend at the time, it was quite new at the time, you'd buy a product and then go, come and join our Facebook community group, and you can ask questions there. I thought this was fantastic. So I joined a few of these, and they were all marketing groups. And what I did was, whenever anybody asked a question about Google ads in the marketing group, as they often were doing, I'd give them the most helpful answer I could give. I'd never pitched, I never did anything. I would just say, here's what you need to know, here's what to do, da-da-da. And sure enough, I'd then get a bunch of messages going, hey Rob, that's really cool, thanks for that. Could you do Google ads for us? Do you work for other agencies? I'm like, of course I do. Would love to help you. Uh-huh. And this kind of snowballed, and each time I'd answer a bunch of questions, go to bed and wake up the following morning to a bunch of messages. Because the interesting thing that I didn't realise was these groups were generally full of Americans. So I'd wake up and I'd get a bunch of new customers in America. So it was like, well, that was a happy accident, that was good. So I'd accidentally built a business that was growing to sort of 20, 30, 40 clients, mainly overseas, that I was handling all the work for myself and the fulfillment, and it grew. So I started hiring a project manager and somebody to help me run the Google ads. And as we went into 2013, I now thankfully had avoided losing my house. That was a good thing. Wife was happy. We actually had something you might call an income. We were living okay and paying down debt. And there was an event being held in Denver, Colorado, and I knew a bunch of my customers were going to be there. And it was all about local marketing for businesses. And it turns out that one of these Facebook groups I was in, the owner of the group, was actually one of the event organisers.
Uh-huh.
So I said, okay. There's a guy called Mike Cooch, who is still a friend to this day. So I told him I was going to come over and said, do you mind if I put on a little customer event while I'm there? Just after hours, in a side room. I'm not trying to pitch anything, I'm just going to talk to my customers. And I sort of scraped together airfare and I went over to Denver, Colorado for the first time. And you know, sometimes there's a moment that things just change. Day one of the event, about 400 marketing agencies in the room, and me, and Mike gets on stage with his business partners and delivers the opening keynote. And I'll never forget, to this day, so it's 2013, it's October 2013 it was, where the days of the generalist are gone. We're in the era of the specialist, and the best example I can give you is Rob and what he's done with Google Ads and his white label Google Ads service. I think you're in the room, Rob. Stand up and give everybody a wave. So I went, hey. And I crawled back under my rock, being my shy, introverted accountant. And I spent the next 3 days mobbed by people wanting Google Ads. And the business just went, whoosh, just exploded in that 3-day period. And there are still customers on the books today that came from that event in 2013. So that was kind of the hook moment, and suddenly at this point I've got a proper American business now. I didn't mean to, but I have. So that was kind of those sort of 2 strange events, didn't particularly plan either, had a massive impact. But looking back, I kind of reflect on it as being, it's about putting yourself in the places where things can happen. You've got to be there for that to happen. I could have easily stayed at home and not gone to that event. I couldn't really afford it. But it was like, well, they're working with a guy halfway around the world when they could work locally.
Yeah.
So why don't you go?
So in these 2 things, which I noticed is, one is like, okay, you're doing something for yourself, you're doing well, and others come to you. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of agency and a lot of businesses relate to that, so perfect. The second one, actually there is in between stuff, which Gary Vaynerchuk keeps talking about all the time, just give. Mm-hmm. And you were sharing your knowledge, right? And you're generally explaining, hey, here's the problem, this will solve it. And I mean, probably a lot before Gary Vaynerchuk started saying it seems like, years back, but it was a natural thing for you to share.
It's the coward's way to sell.
Yeah, so that's great. Basically, it's you just say content, I'm an engineer. The way I would say is that's a knowledge worker's way to sell. Which is like,
I agree with that totally. That's a far more generous way of describing it than I just did.
Because you kind of know something, and hey, you don't know how to sell. All you know is explain the knowledge you have. That's what you're doing. And they just come to you because of that, because they realize, oh, this person knows, right? So I think you definitely leverage that. But the question I have is this event which happened, that's an event which, to me, seems like, oh, it's a aha, that if I go to such a conference, and if in this case, you didn't pay, what was the name you mentioned? The event organizer?
Mike Cooch.
Yeah, so it was not, you didn't pay Mike or anything, but didn't you start thinking, you know what? There are many events like this. If I can just show up there and have somebody stand up and call my name out, even if it is sponsored or somehow, that'll be the way to grow.
Well, do you know, so there's a part 2 to what happened at that event. So, and I'll tell you that now because it kind of ties into what you just said. So it turns out, I knew Mike. I didn't know the guys who were on the stage. It turns out there were 3 or 4 of them running this event jointly. And one of them I knew, a guy called Kevin, was promoting effectively a competitor service on stage. At least it felt that way to me. So, as people were talking to me, and I said I was really busy, people were just kind of constantly approaching me. This customer event, kind of word spread. And so what I'd expected to be about 15 people with me showing them the latest stuff in a room and a couple of PowerPoint slides, suddenly I got a room full of about 50 people all coming to this event. So I did it, and I showed like 50 people, and it was great. They were buying, it was good. And at the end, just finished off, just wrapping up, talking to a group of people, I saw Kevin walk in, and I thought, oh, it's interesting, he's been promoting some on stage. And he comes in and said, what are you doing? I said, just a little customer thing, we're just showing some stuff that's going on. So it looks very much to me like you're running an unlicensed vendor event. You owe me $2,000. I went, oh crap. Apart from the fact I haven't got $2,000, I am now in trouble with the event organisers.
Yeah.
No, Mike said it was okay, it was fine, Mike said I could do it. They were, oh, it's not the way it looks to me, and he carried on again. And after a few minutes of this, you could probably see the terror on my face. Yeah, no, I'm only joking, it's fine. Come with me, I want to introduce you to some people. And what he did next was we agreed to create a training product together. And Kevin introduced me to the world of webinars and selling information and training and software and services via webinar. And so we went from this world of inward people coming to us based on value to doing a joint venture webinar with 250 people on the other end of a GoToWebinar line, doing a structured sales presentation and pitch. I mean, it was as far alien to me as it could have possibly got. I thought I was going to have a heart attack the first time I did this thing. But it was highly profitable, highly lucrative, and it really just cemented our name in that universe, because by the time we'd done 10 or 15 joint ventures with other promoters, people knew who we were.
Yeah.
So it was a really strange, and that's how we got. We didn't go to a booth, or in fact we did. Their next event they ran in 2014, we took a booth.
Okay.
So there you go. Your point's right. We took a booth and we did webinars.
After that. So, and from there on, this I know from talking to you earlier, and that you started solving some of your problems by just kind of building your own software along the way, in-house, because you kind of felt either it did not exist what you wanted, or sometimes it was far too expensive to use third-party software, especially when we have so many clients.
Yeah.
So for those two reasons, you started building that software. So when was that seed in your mind that, okay, we need to build this? How did that start?
So, as I said, I started in software before I became an accidental
Sure.
agency owner. So I'd always got this thing of, I love building stuff. I was one of the kids who at school, I'd be writing spreadsheets and spreadsheet macros and automating stuff. That was what I grew up doing.
Yeah.
And so to me, a software solution was just a natural thing to do. Partly, I mean, it's just laziness. I don't like repetitive, boring stuff. So if I can find a software solve for it, I'm up for it all day. So we built our first software about 2015. A software called Boost by PPC, which would basically, you could type in keywords, it would find the ads that were running, and it would rate the ads and create like a video review of the ads. And that was what we actually sold on these webinars, and it sold great. And we ran that for about 2 years until Google changed the way it was running its search results, and effectively it broke the software and we couldn't fix it, so we had to shut it down. I stayed away from it for a couple of years until we hired an agency to build a dashboard for us, I'm thinking about 2018. Spent a fortune on it and never got it to market. It failed, just spectacularly failed. We hired a really good, reputable firm, and with hindsight, we were well sold. We were sold on a workshop for a couple of days, scope it, spec it, and in reality what actually happened was the budget kept growing, the project scope kept shrinking as there was less being delivered in each sprint, each sort of build cycle, and I think we lost a couple of $100,000 on that build that never saw the light of day, which is kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And so it took me about another 12 months to go back to it after that. So 2020 we really started building again.
And this time,
now it's working.
It's your own.
Now it's all our own.
No agency or anything. Directly manage the team.
Manage our team. We have a couple of outsourced team because they're overseas, but they're effectively our team. They're full time for us. One of the things we found is actually working with agencies who have team who are split between multiple projects just didn't work for us. We need dedicated people who we can
Same people you can call on. Yeah.
Deadlines, responsibilities, internal meetings. Effectively, we treat them as employees, even though they're not employees. But for us, that's the kind of close relationship we have, and we find that works much, much better.
So, is this is a selfish interest for me? we had some clients in past. I want to understand if it is the same model. We have had with our team in India, we had some clients in past who will take our dedicated developers. We will still account manage on top in case there is a communication or deadline issue, but they will just basically pay us a monthly fees for those dedicated developers.
Yeah.
Is that kind of arrangement?
That's how we do it.
Yeah, yeah. We don't ourselves. We don't. We have enough work for ourselves, so we don't do that anymore. But we even, of course, it was profitable for us. But I thought that's a great model for clients too, because they get to know the person.
Yeah.
They know the same person who's always giving them the work, and they can reach out and directly talk to them.
Oh, and we found as well, having more than one developer, I'm not a big fan of a sample size of one, because you kind of don't know what you're getting.
Yep. Yeah.
Because we've had several developers working for us some time now, we get to see different performance levels, different skill levels, and now we're in a position where we can go, that guy's not good enough. We need to replace that one and bring in more, because we now know what good looks like.
Yeah.
And I think as much of it is, what does good look like? What does a really smart developer do? And how is that different to a mediocre or a poor developer? And we've found that understanding that over time has been really, really powerful for us. So we now know that if we've got a big problem, we give it to that guy and we'll get a same day solve more often than not. And it gives you massive confidence as you're building things that you've got the right kind of people in there to build it.
Okay. So now I'm going to take you to the next step. That's the reason we got to know each other eventually. That when did you start? So you started in 2019 some stuff, and then 2020. When did you start realizing that, okay, I'm back into my sweet spot, doing this software, agency business is something, it's great, but I really want to do this more. So when did that start hitting you?
So for me, it came down to a couple of things. I'm very conscious of what I say, what next, because it sounds like I'm about to be negative towards my agency business, and that's not the case. I am proud of and have enjoyed the business that we built over a long period of time. That said, agency is a messy business. It's got lots of people, lots of people moving parts, and fundamentally, I guess I would describe myself as a creative kind of introvert. That doesn't play well in a people business. You don't get into white labeling a nerdy kind of technical thing because you want lots of people relationships. And it's not that I don't like people relationships. I find them tiring. I find them hard work. So for me, there's always this element of a business that grows through people. I find quite emotionally tiring to run. I feel like I take a personal responsibility for every single good or bad thing that happens, and that takes a toll over time because it can be tiny little human errors. And you might just find this as well, that when you're leading an organisation, rarely do people bring you the good news. They bring you the brown sticky stuff, they bring you the problems, they bring you the bad things that have happened, and so you can sometimes end up with a sort of a negative worldview because the only client interactions you've had this week are about 5 people who've had a problem. You don't hear the 95 who didn't have a problem, just the 5 who did. And my psyche works very much on progression and forward motion. So dealing with backwards negative stuff I find quite draining. Whereas, and I know that person X had a bad day that day, they made a mistake, the client was upset, okay, resolved. Whereas I know that if I build a software, the software doesn't have a bad day.
Consistent. If it is something wrong, it'll be wrong every day.
Exactly.
You gotta fix it.
Fix that once, that fix that again. That software's not going to have a bad day tomorrow because it's random. So for me, that was one part of it, was that sense of the people relationships can get quite physically, mentally and emotionally demanding for me and tiring. If I was to be more commercial about it, agency businesses have a value when you exit an agency business. And there's a range of profit multiples of an agency business that are relatively small.
Correct. Yeah.
Because they're essentially busy, messy people businesses. Until you get to kind of like about 3 million per year EBIT, which we weren't at, when the revenue, the multiples jump at that point. So people you see doing roll-ups in agencies where you take 5 jam together, get 3 million. You go, instead of being at maybe 2 to 4 times EBIT, you're at 7 to 8 times. Get that. A software business has a valuation typically based on revenue, and that can be 5 to 10 times revenue, or 15 times in some cases, or even more. So when I looked at just the pure math of where I'm spending my effort, I'm conscious I'm getting a bit 50 soon, and I need to focus my effort on high ROI activities. I said, if I spend another 18 months or 2 years or 3 years of full effort building an agency, the best I can expect, let's say it's 4 times or 5 times my profit. If I spend 18 months building a software, I can expect 10 times my revenue. Okay, purely from that perspective, it makes more sense for me, given that my background is software anyway, to focus on building software for a market that I already know and understand, which is the agency market. It's like, I know who these people are, I know their problems, I will build things at scale that I can solve those problems. So that was the thing for me, and it became to a point where, as I say, it's difficult to ride 2 horses. And I was trying to ride 2 horses, and one was going faster than the other one. And if one's going faster than the other, your legs get very apart very quickly. It's not fun. So I had to make a decision, and that decision was, ultimately to exit the agency.
Yeah. So there's 2 parts here. One, I heard the money and interest in software. Other one, you said keep using the word introvert and people, but from whatever I've known of you, you get along easily with people.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I understand the selling part. I relate to that. But even there, I think, like you're talking to people, I don't think you have any issue with, right? It's the selling sometimes. So I think it's more of the latter. Your logical brain telling you, hey, I've got more multiples here, more happening, I could do a lot more with this, and you have the opportunity because you understand the market, right? So that's great, and it's good to know. And I know what you mean by saying, I've heard your talk, in which you talk about, you didn't want to deal with so many agencies, I want to do this. I hear you, and being the person who's taking it over, I understand you have to be conscious of that. But yeah, to me, I'm very aware of that aspect of it, and I face it day to day, right?
Yeah.
As we grow and we grow, that's a challenge. Huh?
Did I duck the question?
Did you say again?
Did I avoid the question?
No. I think you got that. But not in this talk. Earlier I said I'm going to ask you this,
Okay.
which is basically, we were talking about this concept, irreverent, right? And that's what I've gone with is, and I mean, in early days of my life, I've gone with irreverence for just sake of irreverence. And as I matured, I realized that's stupid, right? You just intentionally want to be counter to what is happening. That's silly on its own, right? And sometimes I do it now, also just for sake of being contrarian, if you will. But the reality is that many times there are opportunities when by irreverence gets you to the next level. So you have examples of things which you have done in your building business and career.
I'll give you 2 that are again related to Invisible PPC and are very, very pertinent. So the first one was, I look back, I kind of owned it as irreverent. At the time it was practical, but I took responsibility for it. So when we first set up, as I mentioned, I had less than no money. But I needed a website just to have something to send people to, because that's the first thing people ask. So I couldn't afford to pay someone to build one. I didn't have the technical skills, particularly to build one myself. We were back in 2013 now, so 2012. It wasn't just a upload a WordPress install and away you go. There was more to it.
Yeah.
So I created a single-page website that was a black thing. I think if you go on the Wayback Machine, you can still see it to this day. And all it said was, nothing to see here, and a phone number. And that was all we had as our website for Invisible PPC. And people said to me, I've tried to check you out online, but I really can't find very much. I went, we're white label, we're behind the scenes. You're not supposed to be able to find much about us. And they go, oh yeah, that's clever. So I kind of owned it. It was a completely practical thing that I couldn't afford to do it. But once I'd done it, and I got great reaction from it. I thought, I'm not changing that. I'm sticking with this.
Yeah.
So even when we could afford it, I still didn't. I left it as it was. It was a great talking point. And so, fast forward a few years. we got invited into Google has these like secret programs of partnership, and the highest one at the time was something called Channel Sales. And because they could see our Google account growing and growing and growing, we got invited into this Channel Sales group, which is they're kind of like top 1% of agencies. And as part of that, we got to know our Google team. We got access to Google resources, and it was great. They were really, at that time, Google were really heavily investing in agencies, so we got fabulous support from them. And they said to me, "Rob, our Google rep came on a call one day, very excited. He said, look, twice a year, the head of Google Ads worldwide picks a few agencies that we recommend to have a meeting with. He wants a meeting with you. Will you come and meet a guy called Alan Tegerson? You can check him on LinkedIn. He was the head of Google Ads worldwide at the time." Sure, cool, why not? So as the days towards this meeting came up, I could tell by the level of anxiety with our Google reps and their bosses who started appearing on our calls. This was a big thing. Because if you press Alan, you can get stuff. Okay. And it came to about a week out from the meeting with Alan, and our Google rep came on in a panic, and he went, "Rob, I need your help with something. I need it now." So what's up? Alan's starting doing his research for the meeting next week. Could you please have a website, because he can't find anything out about you, and it looks really embarrassing. So I was like, okay, so we built a website in a week, purely because Google had asked us to do it. And so Alan could check us out and see who we were. And so did that, got on the call, and this comes back to the sort of second part of this thing, which is one of the things I find has served me best in marketing, which is unusual, people don't do it, is being almost overly truthful. So we got to this meeting with Alan, and you can imagine it was me and two of my colleagues. We're all sat on a laptop like this, huddled around our laptop, our faces like 6 inches from the screen because the webcams weren't quite as good. And they're in a conference room with a full conference setup and about 10 levels of management around the table. And so the meeting comes in, Alan comes in last, sits at the head of the table, and his very first question, "So Rob, what made you set up Invisible PPC?" I said, we were founded on 3 core principles: cowardice, desperation, and a lack of better alternatives. Which was totally the truth. The whole room looked absolutely aghast at what I just said, apart from Alan, who practically fell off his chair laughing, because people don't speak to him like that. And so when I came out with this comment, which was absolutely true, we immediately set the tone. If you say something so embarrassingly honest to somebody, no matter what else you say after that, you've got a level of trust and relationship that you can build on. And that, for me, was just fun.
Yeah, because he knew right then that everything you were tell him can be trusted, because you don't care about being that big company.
I can't get any more embarrassed than I just got a minute ago. So.
That is awesome. I'll share with you that early days when we started, I was the only one, and I was outsourcing to India. And first time of Indian origin, I'm already here. Of course, they could check my credentials, and I kind of went to school here and all, but still. And so the line I started using is that, hey, most companies have this problem about too many chiefs and very few Indians. We don't have that problem. I'm the only chief, and there are a lot of Indians in this company. So we are very effective in doing this work. so we just kind of played around
but
it.
As you say, it's what somebody else perceives to be a negative, by owning it and bringing it in that way, you turned it into an absolute advantage.
Yeah, and then of course, as we grew, we hired a lot more people in the US, but that's what I did, and it went well. I mean, at least it's humor, at least, right?
Exactly.
It gets people going. So this is great.
I'd like to turn the tables a little bit and talk about. We know why I did Invisible. I'd like to know why you want Invisible.
Sure.
And have a conversation about that piece of it and your vision for the future.
Sure. So the reason, so we have done Google Ads on our own at different levels at different times. We did manage at times budgets close to, for a single company, over 400K a month. So it was, so we've done that level, right? And it was great business because we were charging, that time it was like 15% of the ad spend. That included everything. So just having that one client was already a great business.
That wouldn't count as a business.
yeah, which was a bad thing when we lost the client, right?
Of course.
So we had done that and we were doing that. One problem I always had was we did our job best we could, and I kind of just could never figure out that, are we any good? Reason being, we didn't have that many clients to figure it out, right? It was only few clients. So if the client succeeds, I've always had this mindset that sometimes client succeeds in spite of the marketing.
Mm-hmm.
We just have a good product, people want to buy, and and I am being of engineering mindset. I want to know, is it what we did, or they want to sell anyway? We just put ads in there and they just help a little bit, and maybe we made a little bit worse, but they were still selling, right? So I was always very intrigued with, when I was part of Digital Marketer Partner Program and all, I kept on asking partners, I hired some to do ads for me, to do audits. Because the saying is that, hey, these people who have done hopefully more, know more, right? And I want to see what they do. But every time I was disappointed because they were all small level players. So when I saw this kind of agency, and then I knew there's other agency in Austin, I think they're Pure Play, PPC, said, the people who must know this is who are Pure Plays because they just do ads.
Yeah.
So that was my first interest when I heard about this opportunity that you wanted to move on from this one. I said, man, so it was purely a technical interest in my mind. So initially you might not have realized that it was not the numbers I was looking at. I was looking at what kind of ads do they do? Are they any good? And do they have enough customers? Do they do enough kinds of ads? And then they must know quite a lot, right? So that was my personal interest more than anything else. That's I want to
engineering interest.
Yeah, I want to know that, and then hey, that'll be great because we can grow and I can build this, right? Then we will have the best, because I always want the best optimal solution for client. So for PPC, we'll have the optimal solution. So that was my interest, right? Initially, and I was with Chinmay, who's controlling this meeting for us. The thing she kept on asking me, and I kept on asking is, who does that? Do they really know it? Who's their team? Do they really know this stuff or not? Or it's test? Because there are enough marketing agencies, they do grow big, they don't know enough, right?
I agree. I come across a lot of them.
Yes, yeah. So then the way I researched it is, I went and saw you talk. You were talking about your tools and other things. And then I kind of said, if Rob is the founder, he's talking about the tools and the stuff he's talking about with the passion, he knows this stuff. This is not something he's just, I just got it. So he knows that. So I don't have to worry. If he's the founder, then that means the team knows how to do this, right? So that was my first thing. Great, good. I got it. So it was the same reason, the reason you're able to sell, that's the part I feel we run parallel. That I try to see. There's a phrase which I'm going to plug in Chinmay here again. She used the phrase that end of the day, competence is all that matters.
Oh, that's cool.
Right? Because it's a little bit of a Ayn Rand kind of a philosophy approach that we keep talking about, we need to be human, we need to be nice, we need to be sharing. You can do all that, but if you're not competent, nothing else matters, right?
I agree.
Right? So that is what I was looking for, right? And when I saw that, okay, I said, they are a competent company, they are doing well. We know quite a few things which I have learned about selling and marketing as agency, so we can leverage that and we can grow this. So that was the reason I felt it was a great match for us to take on. There's opportunity because I see this as something I want to double, triple, or more, right? And build it bigger because competence is there, it already works, and there is opportunities and there are other markets to go to. The other aspect was the people who have got on board that's the other reason I felt Invisible PPC would be great is who have gotten on board for helping me grow our business. They have a lot of experience with agencies. So I said, okay, not the end customers, they know a lot about agency business. So which means we can work with a lot more agencies to do white labeling. So that's another reason I felt like, okay, we are placed right to take this and grow this business, right? So that was my reason. I mean, so initially technical, then it kind of, I saw a business opportunity.
I love it, and from my perspective, I mean, thank you. That's super. It's nice to know that here's a strange thing. When I was first building it, and I was in the tools every day and doing stuff, and replying to people and working and doing. I had a conversation with my wife, and I said, I don't really understand this. I said, I'm doing my job for people, and I'm answering their questions. I said, and it seems that actually giving a damn is a competitive advantage. And surely that's the minimum that's expected of anybody. Just care about what you do and do it to the best of your ability. It seems that's not a popular opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah,
but I took it for granted.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you actually just put your time and your skills and do the right thing, it's amazing how often that sets you apart. And yet I thought that would just be the entry requirement, and it isn't. But I think you're right. I think with your background, your agencies, and the range of service experience that Kuera's got, I think Invisible can do things under your leadership it couldn't do under mine. And I'm super excited for that. One of my big concerns when it's been my baby for 10 years, I said to you over lunch, it's part of my identity for the last 10 years, is you want your baby to go to a good home. You want it to be well looked after and grown and nurtured, and something you can. I still want to be proud of it in 10 years, even if I don't own it. I would still like to think we can be talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm proud of what it's become.
Yeah.
And I want to be in the crowd, being its biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
So for me, finding the person with the same mindset, you mentioned the engineering approach, and a desire to build, is what it's all about.
Yeah. So definitely, that's something.
Huge.
It's going to be a good journey.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge win for us.
And I will tell you up front that I'm jealous of you about the SaaS business, because we've been talking about SaaS not in your space for a long time, in-house, and we just never got around to it for the same reasons. You keep getting and in our case, we keep getting other business who has time to do the SaaS.
Yep.
So we have this LabWorks. So don't be surprised 2-3 years from now, be completely different area. We meet again and we are talking more about SaaS.
That's fine. I can nerd out on that stuff all day. Like, if you want to nerd out, be it SaaS, be it Google Ads, we can do that anytime.
Yeah.
Even better if there's a red wine involved.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really appreciate the time.
That.
And we got to record this, so it's even better because we leverage this, and maybe we'll make that part true. What you say, that you don't want a meeting or visit wasted. You want to make money out of it. Maybe there's something come out of this.
Who knows?
All right.
Thank you so much, Avi. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Show Me the Nuggets. If you've been enjoying the podcast and find our content helpful, please visit our Apple Podcast page, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a review. Joe and the whole team have been working hard to bring more value to the show. Your feedback will go a long way in helping us make the show better and reach a wider audience.